Imagine someone wrongs you, hurts you, betrays your trust, and you feel that fire inside, urging you to get revenge, to make them pay. It's tempting, isn't it? The idea that revenge will make you feel better, that it'll put them in their place. But what if I told you the best revenge isn't about making them suffer at all? What if the most powerful thing you could do is rise above the situation, refuse to mirror their behavior, and take control of your own peace? Stoic philosophers believed that true strength comes from how we respond to life's challenges, not from seeking revenge. In this video, I'm going to show you how to break free from the cycle of anger and negativity, and why living well is the best form of retaliation. Let's dive in and discover why the best revenge is simply not to be like your enemy. Number 1. The cycle of revenge. Once upon a time, Seneca made the observation, "Revenge, what a vicious chain you are." He was aware of the fact that when we seek revenge, we not only cause harm to other people, but we also cause harm to ourselves. Revenge keeps us spinning. I have harmed you, and you have hurt me. In response, you take retribution, and the cycle continues. You are mired in an emotional tug-of-war, wasting your energy on a conflict that has no clear victor, and you are unable to go forward in your life. When someone acts badly toward you, remember that it is their own ignorance or misunderstanding that leads them. Epictetus has been quoted as saying, "The behaviors that they do are a reflection of their shortcomings, not of yours." On the other hand, when you seek revenge, you allow their stupidity to govern where you go. As a result, you end up reflecting the precise conduct that you find repugnant. Take this into consideration. Every time that you spend preparing or carrying out your revenge is a moment that you will never get back. When you dwell on negative thoughts, you are wasting time that you could have used to improve your life, cultivate your passions, or find calm. Staying trapped in this cycle for a longer period of time makes it more difficult to break free of it. It is via the Stoics that we learn to value our time and our energy. How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it? Marcus Aurelius wrote in his epic poem, "Revenge may feel right in the moment, but the consequences of doing so in the long run, bitterness, regret, and missed opportunities, are significantly more detrimental." It is not acceptable to allow someone to get away with hurting you in order to break free from this cycle. It means not allowing them to control your feelings or behavior because you refuse to let them. It is only through rising above the conflict and not allowing it to consume you that true power can be found. Therefore, the question that has to be answered is whether you will continue to be a prisoner of the cycle of retaliation, or whether you will choose to walk away, thereby recovering your freedom and serenity. Not only does the choice determine the outcome, but it also determines the kind of person you will develop into. Number 2. True power lies in self-control. The concept of strength does not involve dominating other people. Rather, it refers to self-mastery. You have power over your mind, not over events that occur outside of yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Make this a reality, and you will discover your strength." Your initial reaction may be to lash out at the person who has wronged you. The rage, not the wisdom, is the source of that impulse. When you are angry, your judgment is clouded, you act on impulse, and you leave yourself open to regret. Strength is not the same thing as wisdom in action. Rather, it is the ability to pause, ponder, and respond with restraint. Just like a hurricane, think about it. The moment you feel anger, It's like a roaring storm within you that's compelling you to take action. On the other hand, self-control is the calm point in the storm. Even when disarray is all around you, it enables you to maintain your equilibrium, think clearly, and act in a deliberate manner. It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. Epictetus emphasized in his lectures, because he believed that this was the case. It is not the act itself that is the source of your anger. Rather, it is your interpretation of the event that is the source of your anger. Being able to control your perception allows you to control the situation. While we are here, let us take a moment to think about it. If you allow your feelings to take control, what results do you get? A downward spiral is occurring. It is possible that you will say or do something that you will later come to regret, so exacerbating the issue rather than resolving it. Not only do you lose control of the situation, but you also lose control of yourself and your life. On the other side, self-control is a form of liberation. Putting you in control of your life and releasing you from the shackles of impulsive reactions is the result of this. Understanding your feelings and making a conscious decision about how to react to them is more important than trying to repress them. Therefore, you should ask yourself, as the storm of rage brews, will you allow yourself to be carried away by it, or will you employ the power of self-control to anchor yourself? It is important to keep in mind that the stronger person is not the one who lashes out, but rather the one who decides not to. You will be able to control your life if you train your thoughts. True strength can be found at that place. Number 3. Your values define you. During times of strife, your character will be put to the test. It's not the things that happen to you that are the real struggle. It's how you react to those things. Are you willing to allow the actions of other people to determine who you are? On the other hand, are you going to be unmoved by the storms of negativity and remain steadfast in your principles? In the past, Seneca, who is considered to be one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, offered the following piece of advice. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. What you are doing when you desire revenge is not simply hurting someone else in return. Rather, you are yearning for something that you have already lost: respect for yourself. In doing so, you are letting the actions of another person to define you. Trying to win the favor or affirmation of people who have offended you causes you to lose sight of the value that you provide to the team. You put your value in the hands of another person when you give in to the temptation to seek revenge and allow it to consume you completely. Your mental state and your sense of yourself are placed under their control as a result of your actions. This, however, is not the way to find one's inner strength. This is an example of weakness masquerading as justice. You have the option of selecting an alternative course of action, one in which your value is not determined by the acts of other people, but rather by the values that you hold most dear. When you live your life in accordance with ideals such as self-respect, kindness, and honesty, you're no longer bound to the whims of the individuals who are constantly in your immediate vicinity. You choose to transcend their pessimism and refuse to allow yourself to be drawn into trivial disagreements that threaten your tranquility. According to Marcus Aurelius, we should strive to be like the rock that the waters continue to crash over. The raging of the sea falls still around it, and it remains immovable as it stands there. In the same way as a rock does not change shape, despite the waves that crash against it, your character ought to stay unshakable regardless of the challenges that you encounter. It is impossible for anyone to take away your principles, which serve as your basis. unless you give them permission to do so. Which option do you decide to go with today? Will the actions of your adversaries be the defining factor of who you are, or will the values that define you be the defining factor? Regardless of what other people throw at you, demonstrate to the world that you will always be able to rise above it. Take a firm stance on who you are and allow your values to shine through. Number 4, the hidden cost of revenge. It's not simply that getting revenge is emotionally taxing, it's also damaging. It is not only detrimental to the individual you are aiming for, it also undermines your own sense of tranquility, the quality of your relationships, and even your own personal objectives. Take a moment to reflect on the fact that when you want revenge, you are engaging in an emotional conflict that only serves to prolong your misery. If you have a heart that is already heavy, it is tempting to imagine that getting revenge will provide relief. Nevertheless, in truth, it adds another layer of weight to your heart. The insightful words of Marcus Aurelius provide us with a reminder that the best way to avenge yourself is to not be like that. So, to put it another way, you shouldn't put yourself on the same level as the individual who caused you pain. When you seek revenge, you end yourself becoming embroiled in the identical negativity that you are trying to escape. You are further removed from tranquility and clarity as a result of this, as it draws you deeper into the drama. An ongoing preoccupation with the past is frequently the result of a reaction that initially begins as a reaction to the feeling of being wronged. Instead of making progress, you find that you are unable to break out of the emotional cycle of resentment, wrath, and frustration that you have adopted. Because this cycle occupies your energy and your focus, there is little room for personal development, creative expression, or joy. Take into consideration the cost. Every second that you spend ruminating on the wrongs that have been done to you, and every second that you spend preparing your revenge, is time that you will never get back. A period of time that could have been used to construct your dreams, cultivate your relationships, or simply take pleasure in the tranquility that comes with letting go. You may regain your time when you let go of your desire for revenge. You begin to live your life for yourself rather than for the acts of other people. You make room in your life to concentrate on the things that are actually important to you, such as your success, your happiness, and your overall well-being. When you let go of the need to exact revenge, you take the first step toward living a life that is not governed by rage, but rather by a sense of purpose. Instead of allowing yourself to get drawn into the emotional maelstrom of retaliation, you start living your life with intention, giving priority to things that are in alignment with your beliefs. It is not about making excuses or ignoring wrongs when you let go of your need for revenge. Rather, it is about making the decision to protect your peace and divert your energy toward a life that is worth living. Number 5, emotional detachment is key. One of the pillars of Stoicism is emotional detachment. The truth is that it is one of the most powerful skills you can cultivate to safeguard your peace, despite the fact that it is sometimes perceived as unfeeling or indifferent. In his teachings, Epictetus emphasized that the most important thing is not what occurs to you, but how you respond to it. Recognizing that your emotional state is determined by your reaction, rather than by events that occur in the outside world, is the essence of emotions detachment. Emotional detachment does not mean that you cease caring about other people or that you fail to acknowledge your sentiments. By doing so, You are merely making the conscious decision to shield your inner tranquility from the upheaval caused by external occurrences. You are allowing another person to control your emotional state when you allow their acts to provoke you. You're able to regain control of the situation when you detach. Rather than reacting on impulse, you begin to respond from a place of wisdom rather than letting the actions of others drive your sentiments. Instead of taking it personally when someone wrongs you, you should make it a habit to consider their acts as a reflection of their own character rather than your own. While their actions reveal a great deal about who they are, they do not reveal anything about your value. When you emotionally distance yourself from the behaviors of another person, you liberate yourself from the burden of carrying the weight of their negativity. It is also important to remember that Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." When you remove yourself from anything, you shift your perspective. The idea that you are a victim of the conduct of another person is no longer something you consider. Your perception of yourself is that you are a person who is in charge of how you react. Regardless of how chaotic the situation may appear to be, you are able to rise above trivial disagreements and keep your clarity while doing so. You will be able to manage life with an unshakable sense of peace when you engage in the practice of emotional detachment. Your responses are now more thoughtful and considered, as opposed to being impulsive and impetuous. This makes it possible for you to direct your attention toward the things that are actually important to you, such as your long-term objectives, your relationships, and your overall well-being, without getting drawn into every drama or argument. If you find that these ideas are assisting you in shifting your viewpoint, please pause for a moment and subscribe. We will work together to construct a life that is founded on inner calm, emotional fortitude, and wisdom. Number 6. Living well is the best revenge. When it comes to getting revenge, it is not about what you do to another person. Rather, it is about what you do for yourself. When you direct your attention toward your own development, happiness, and accomplishments, you send a puff of tea. Nothing and no one can bring you down. With the words, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be," Marcus Aurelius encourages us to concentrate on the things that we have the ability to manage. The phrase, "be one," instead of reacting to the behavior of other people, you should focus on becoming the best version of yourself. This is where the genuine power rests. You enter a life that doesn't allow for resentment or retaliation when you commit your efforts to becoming a person of integrity, intelligence, and strength. This is a life that you step into. Eventually, you will become so engrossed in your own development that you will no longer feel the need to demonstrate anything to anyone. As an alternative, you demonstrate it to yourself on a daily basis by the activities and decisions that you make. If you make the decision to live a good life, you will elevate yourself above the domain of unimportant disagreements. You are able to rise beyond the negative comments, insults, and wrongs that may have been committed against you by other people. Your attention switches from responding to the difficulties that life presents to the process of designing a life that provides you satisfaction. The most effective form of revenge is this, in and of itself. It is important to keep in mind that when you concentrate on your own growth and achievement, you obtain something that is much more significant than petty revenge: serenity, contentment, and a life that is lived according to your own terms. Therefore, you should set aside the idea of demonstrating your value to those who have harmed you. Instead, demonstrate to yourself that you are capable of doing so by leading a life that is so emotionally satisfying and purposeful that there is no room for resentment or hostility. You are already the victor. You've evolved into the kind of person who is so intent on creating a meaningful existence that you can't allow yourself to get sidetracked by the acts of other people. In addition, that is a win that no one can take away from you. Number 7. The Stoic mindset on conflict. Conflict was something that Marcus Aurelius, who is considered to be the most famous Stoic philosopher, was no stranger to. During his reign as Emperor of Rome, he was confronted with treachery, conflicts, and political plots that would have been too much for most individuals to handle. In spite of the turmoil that was occurring around him, he managed to keep his cool. It was written by him that to bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. Having this fundamental realization shows the core of the Stoic way of thinking, which is that your power in the face of conflict does not reside in what occurs to you, but rather in how you choose to respond to your circumstances. Marcus made the conscious decision to respond to every obstacle he encountered with rationality, dignity, and self-control. It was clear to him that no amount of vengeance could ever offer him peace. The only thing that could was self-mastery. It is possible that vengeance can provide a momentary feeling of fulfillment. Nevertheless, in the long run, it will only serve to escalate the dispute. On the other hand, the Stoics believed that peace was something that emanated from inside and not from exterior victories over other people. This attitude was mirrored by Epictetus, who stated, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us. Rather, it is our opinions about them." Suffering is a choice, but conflict is something that cannot be avoided. You are able to diminish the power that an issue has over you when you look at it through the lens of reason and by exercising self-control. You're able to rise above the circumstance rather than getting drawn into it to begin with. Imagine what it would be like if, when confronted with a disagreement, you were able to respond not with anger or retaliation, but rather with calmness, clarity, and wisdom for the situation. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated to us that the defining characteristic of true strength is the ability to remain calm in the face of adversity, rather than seeking vengeance or acting out of spite. Therefore, when you are confronted with a conflict, you should ask yourself, will I let this circumstance to rule me, or will I control how I react to it? Your decision to go with the latter allows you to break away from the grip that anger and negativity have on you. You make the decision to walk a road that is noble and peaceful, just like Marcus did during his entire life. Number 8. Letting go of resentment. It is difficult to carry resentment. It ties you down to the past, which saps your vitality and makes it difficult for you to make sound decisions. When you harbor resentment, you give the wrongs that have been done to you the opportunity to continue to have an effect on you long after the incident has passed. It is the same as carrying a weight that you do not require, and it just slows you down on your trip toward achieving your goals. Seneca made a profound observation when he observed, "He who is brave is free." And what could be more courageous than letting go of the resentment and anger that are weighing you down? The act of forgiving someone requires bravery, not because it's simple, but because it's liberating. Forgiveness is not about forgetting or forgiving the misdeeds of another person. Rather, it's about releasing yourself from the control that their actions have over you. One way to think about it is that when you harbor resentment, you are allowing another else to exert influence over your emotional state. When you give them control over your happiness, your tranquility, and your mental clarity, you're really handing them power. Nevertheless, when you forgive, you regain control of that power. You're not going to let the behaviors of other people to impose their will on your emotional world. There is no indication of weakness in letting go of animosity. Rather, it is an act of strength. It is about coming to terms with the fact that harboring resentment is only to your detriment, and that the path to genuine freedom is to let go of things that are no longer beneficial to you. When you make the decision to forgive, you create room for happiness, clarity, and forward movement in your life. You create the emotional space that is necessary to concentrate on the things that are actually important in your life, and you open the door to an opportunity for healing and progress. When you forgive someone, you are able to go forward with a heart that is free of burdens and a mind that is clear. Resentment, on the other hand, keeps you rooted in the past. Therefore, you should ask yourself, are you prepared to take the burden of anger off of your shoulders? Get rid of it. Rather than for them, it is for you. In the event that you do so, you will discover that you have more room in your life for joy, tranquility, and the wonderful opportunities that are still to come. Number 9. Winning without fighting. A deep realization was provided by Epictetus, who stated, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." To put it another way, when you respond to something that provokes you, you give it the ability to control you. The most effective strategy for winning is to not participate in the game at all. When someone tries to drag you into a conflict, the most powerful thing you can do is choose not to engage in the conflict. By demonstrating that you are unfazed by their attempts to shake you, you demonstrate that you have chosen silence over retaliation. The act of walking away does not indicate that you have lost. Rather, it indicates that you have already won. To put this into perspective, when you respond to someone who is attempting to provoke you, you are giving them the ability to influence your feelings. You are letting their pessimism to determine how you will respond to them. Nevertheless, you are able to keep control of the situation when you choose to remain mute. You take measures to preserve your tranquility, and you do not permit their behaviors to disrupt your mental state. This is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it is the most definitive demonstration of power. The capacity to maintain composure and calmness in the face of aggression calls for a high level of emotional intelligence, as well as self-mastery. The fact that you do not have to prove anything to anyone is demonstrated by this. You are aware of your value, and it is not contingent on the judgments or actions of other people. As Marcus Aurelius tells us, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Therefore, make the decision to choose freedom, power, and growth. Raise yourself above the din and allow your actions to speak volumes about your knowledge and resiliency. In the event that this message struck a chord with you, let us go with this adventure together. Hit that subscribe button, and let's create a life that is so strong that no one can bring it down.